Welcome to Transcendent. I'm Raya, and I'm the daughter.
And I'm Joe, and I'm the dad. Can you believe it is November already? Man, I can't believe how time flies.
It really is going fast, very fast. You know, I was reading the other day about something about arachnophobia, and I thought to myself, this is so stupid, arachnophobia. Who cares if two spiders get married? It doesn't affect you.
Hear that on the web?
So often in the LGBTQ community, we have people that come that have homophobia or transphobia, and they think they've got their question and they're going to bring it out and they're just going to throw it out, and you're going to be left stunned and, oh, I don't know what to say.
One of the common ones is, are you sure you're just not confused? I mean, that idea is often used just to invalidate somebody's identity and make them feel like they don't know themselves. It's important to remember that everyone's entitled to their own identity, and there is no right or wrong way.
There's a lot of ways that this can manifest itself of, I don't really believe you, is kind of the idea, is that when you come out, you've been dealing with all of these things inside, and maybe somebody else didn't know or kind of thought you were a different person. And so this can manifest in ways of, like, they might end up saying, well, how do you really know? Or they might say, you know, have you tried dating a man? Or to a gay man, have you tried dating a woman? Maybe you just haven't found the right woman yet.
And of course, you want to respond back to the guy who said that to you. Gee, have you tried dating a guy? Maybe you're gay.
Maybe you haven't found the right man yet.
Exactly.
Or someone might say something like, well, maybe this is just a phase. Maybe you're going to come out of it. Now, there can be times where, you know, sexuality can be fluid, and especially as somebody is, if there's somebody that's younger, they may have to take a few stabs at kind of figuring out who they are. But when somebody comes out when they're in their later teens or 20s or even into their 30s or 40s, when you come and say, well, maybe it's just a phase, what you're really saying is, I like my vision of you better than your own vision of yourself. It's really not fair.
So you think it's okay for the kids to be around gay people? Isn't that another gotcha question?
It can be used that way for sure.
Yeah.
It starts with the assumption that, well, it's wrong to be gay. Or at least it's wrong in a family values kind of sense. It's sort of like that gay is an adult kind of thing, like anything else in, say, an R-rated movie. That gay is off limits for what we talk about in polite society. And I think to myself, well, wait a minute here. Then why aren't straight relationships the same way? You know, hey, why is it okay for a straight couple to hold hands together, but not for a gay couple?
Right. Exactly.
Love is love. And the idea that a gay couple is somehow not okay for the kids is bringing in, it's what they call begging the question. You say, oh, well, you think it's okay for kids to see gay people? Well, the only reason why that would be wrong is if you already think that it's wrong, and then you don't want kids to see that. It would be like if you said, so you think it's okay for kids to see interracial marriages? And there was a time when many people thought that's terrible.
Yes.
And now I would hope that we would all agree that there's nothing wrong with an interracial marriage or relationship at all.
This question is often used to dismiss someone's identity and make them feel that they're not really LGBTQ.
What I think of here is somebody that says, you know, I don't really care about who you actually are. What I really care about is how I view you. And I never viewed you as gay. And so when you tell me that you're gay, I'm going to not accept it. I'm going to assume that or try to project on you an idea that, no, you're who I think I really want you to be. And really, it's a way of being selfish in a relationship rather than being loving. When you're loving and compassionate towards someone that you care about, you say, hey, I want to do what's best for you. How can I support you in who you really are? But when you approach a relationship from a place of selfishness, you say, I don't care about who you actually are. I care about who you are to me. And if you ever break out of the box that I put you in, I'm not happy about it. And that's kind of what this is doing.
And you have experienced that. I remember at least 2 or 3 times when you first became transgender.
Well, I mean, in a sense, I've been transgender my whole life. I've
yes,
always
that's
known
right.
this. But when I first came out, when I first transitioned, right?
Mhm. Yeah, and you ran into one of your closest friends at one of our major events in the community.
Stood up in my wedding.
Right. Exactly. And he was shocked. He didn't know quite how to take it.
And now, admittedly, there's something different about the very first time, and especially for being transgender. You're giving people pretty major shocks, so I understand that. And this was the first time he knew, but this was the first time that he had seen me as me, and he wasn't expecting me to come up, and I came up to him, and you could tell he didn't recognize me right away because he wasn't he wasn't expecting me to be me. And I said, "Oh, hey, it's me." And he stopped for a minute and and then he was standoffish a little bit, and then he was serving at a breakfast, and I thought I'll give him some space, and then I went over and I sat down and I ate my breakfast. I was working at the time, so I got a worker meal, so I was eating, and a little bit later he came over and sat down, and he said, "So I have to ask you, how do you know for real?" And I said, "I can tell you, I've spent the last year and a half trying to do everything that I can to get out of doing this, because believe me, I didn't want to have to transition." And it was ultimately came down to, it was this, or I don't think I can continue to be here any longer. I don't think I'm going to be able to be here for my kids. And I have to transition for their sake so that I can be here for them. And he looked at me and he said, "Okay, then I accept it."
So, was his question to you originally a trap? How do you know it's for real? Or was he just being sincere and saying, can't you just be the way you were? How did you interpret that?
I think he was being sincere, but he was being sincere in a place of, I don't like who you are. I think he sincerely didn't like the fact that I had transitioned.
Mm-hmm.
And was having a difficult time with it. So I think he was sincere, but I think he was sincerely judgmental, maybe, or sincerely unaccepting.
And asking.
And he was asking, but he was asking in a way that was unapproving.
Right.
Now, I had a lot of grace for him in that moment. Now, I would say, first of all, if you were listening to this and you go through this, I would say not everyone will feel that way. A lot of transgender people, when they first come out, or gay people coming out, or anyone in the LGBTQ plus community coming out, need you to be an ally. So the fact that I'm giving my friend grace, please don't assume that that means that you just have blanket, permission to mess it up. You want to try to get it right when you can, but when you're first hearing, I understand. I can cut him some slack. Now, after that fact, after it was done, the next several times that we interacted, I'm not sure that really sunk in. And at that point, it felt more like he wasn't going to accept me, but he wasn't going to make a big deal out of the fact that he wasn't going to accept me. He wasn't going to push it, but he also wasn't going to. He wasn't going to accept what I said about myself, but he wasn't going to try to tell me otherwise.
He wasn't going to reject you.
Which I appreciate, but yet I could tell. In many ways, I think we've gone beyond that, where now he sort of has recognized this is how it is now, and he's not going to change things, and I think we've kind of come to a new place. But originally, it took a long time where he wanted to impose his viewpoint of who I should be on me, who couldn't be that person.
What about his family? How do they react to you?
I don't think that ever came up. I don't think I had a conversation with anyone else about it.
Oh, have you met his family? You run across them now and then?
I think so, but I haven't. Are you talking his parents?
No, I'm talking about his kids and his wife.
No, I think the kids. The kids grew up with my kids, and they just, for them it was, oh yeah, there's this adult in the community that did a thing, and I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't.
What about his wife?
We haven't talked about it, but she. The difference is that for her, she never really knew me much beforehand. We met, but we didn't have a friendship.
You didn't have a close relationship. Yeah.
And so the difference of who I was to her before and who I am to her now, we're still not we're not very close, but I would say we're very, we're civil and we get along, and
sure.
she doesn't treat me any differently because she's never had any reason not to.
So tell me, in your situation, have you ever run across a situation where people tried to trap you with a question?
I think when I originally transitioned, I thought it would be a great idea to start this YouTube channel where I would be going out and addressing transphobes and trying to bring them around. And of course, my way of dealing with anybody is I don't like to be confrontational. Part of that is just growing up in the Midwest. Anybody in the Midwest, we just don't like confrontation in general. But then especially having learned from you as a salesperson and just as somebody who I think for you, every single person that you know is your friend. Mm-hmm. You can have met somebody one time and then you will describe them as, I've got this friend, Tom over here is my friend. Well, you just met him one time. But you make friends very, very quickly. And unless somebody betrays your trust, you always consider them a friend and you treat them accordingly. So that was the model that I grew up with. So when I first transitioned, I thought, well, I want to take that same thing, very much kind of the relationship that we have here and what we're modeling here. And I said, I want to go and address the transphobes and try to bring them around. But what really happened is that I didn't ever really say anything to, they would say, they would trap me with this gotcha thing. And I would say, well, that's not really exactly. And I would kind of beat around the bush and I wouldn't just come out and answer it right away. And I felt like that I got a lot of those during that period. It was about a year or so where I did that. And after about a year, I said, forget it. I'm just, this is not an emotionally healthy thing for me to be doing. Just trying to win over people that think that I have no right to be who I am and to have to constantly defend myself of who I am. It was too much. So I heard about every kind of one that you could hear.
Mm-hmm. And how did you hear that? Did they email you or?
That or when you have a YouTube channel that people would leave comments.
Oh.
So oftentimes it would leave comments in any kind of social media. can be really toxic if you let it. Social media is designed to get you to fight with as many strangers as you possibly can. And because especially when you're typing out comments, you don't hear tone of voice and you have no actual person right in front of you. We have neurons in our brains that make it so that we don't like to make other people feel bad when we can see them. But when you're typing to somebody that's somewhere out there, something about that turns off, and so many people that are really nice people in real life suddenly become very mean and have no problem saying whatever gross things they can to just make you feel lousy. And social media encourages it. So I just said, forget it. I'm done with this. I have better things to do. But they would oftentimes come and say, well, what about this one right here? What about, and then they would just try to get me in. Oh, it was too much.
So you haven't had anyone face to face that has been trying to trap you with a question?
I think in general, face to face, we have that the principle that people don't generally want to. No one wants to walk up and leave me crumpled up on the floor crying.
Right.
And so that doesn't come up.
You know what that means? I don't think you could be a politician.
Probably I couldn't. I'm not really the right personality for that.
No. It does take a person to do that. When we have situations like interviewing somebody that is being considered for a Supreme Court nomination.
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition?
Mm-hmm.
No,
Yeah,
I can't.
you can't?
Not in
Okay.
this context.
So you
I'm not a
believe the
biologist.
meaning of the word woman is so unclear and controversial that you can't give me a definition?
Senator, in my work as a judge, what I do is I address disputes. If there's a dispute about a definition, people make arguments, and I look at the
All right.
law and I decide. So I'm not.
The fact that you can't give me a straight answer about something as fundamental as what a woman is underscores the dangers of the kind of progressive education that we are hearing about.
That was a gotcha question right there. What is a woman? How do you define a woman? This should be this easy thing. Ha ha, I got you. You don't know, and oftentimes we'll hear it as, especially among some of the hardest transphobes out there, will say, a woman is an adult human female. There it is. That settles it. We're all done. We can move on. And that means that anybody that was born male can never be a woman, and that's just how it is. And transgender is not a thing. And we wrote that off, got it taken care of. We can move on now. Well, that's obviously not how it works, right? And so here's how I would answer that question is that, it sounds like it's this big thing. And if you believe that being transgender is a thing, you have no answer for this. And I would say I have a big answer for this. And that is your sex has to do with your reproductive role. But your gender is the social roles that comes up around that. For instance, whether or not you can have a baby, that is biologically determined. But whether or not it is okay for you to wear nail polish on your nails is not biologically determined. That's a social thing. That's completely made up. Someone along the way decided that it's okay for women to wear nail polish, and for men it's not okay. Now, some of the younger people are playing with that a little bit, and you will sometimes see men wearing nail polish, especially if they're younger. But the point is those things can change. But that's the idea, is that's the difference between gender and sex. What I would say is that the category of woman is the social category. It's everything that we talk about with how we interact with the world. We have an idea of women are this and men are this. And it's not the same to say a man can do everything that a woman can do, or a woman can do everything that a man can do. So just because you say, you know what, I'm not going to judge a man that wears a dress, or I'm not going to judge a man that wears nail polish. And yet there's something different about just the pronouns. This runs so deep in who we are that we say, that person over there, not only do I want to tell you whatever I want to tell you about them in this next sentence, but I also want to remind you about their gender. I want to remind you about all the social assumptions that go with how should they dress, and how should they act, and how should they sit, and how should they walk, and how should they talk, how should we treat them, and all of these things that come along with that one little word of he or she. And those are the pieces that when we're talking about being transgender that we're looking at fighting. For me, it was saying all of those things, whatever they were, I actually don't even care. To me, there are some things that if you say, okay, the men do it this way and the women do it this way, I will say, I don't even care which way I do it, but tell me which way the women are doing it, because that's the way that I want to do it. I'm going to feel most comfortable if I'm fitting in the way that the women are doing it. The whole idea is that this is a social category. So my definition, that was a whole preface, to say my definition of woman would be someone who wants to send the social cues that they fit in with the group of people that we consider female. They may not be female, but it's the person who wants to send the social cues that says, this is my group. Nothing more, nothing less. They may be doing it well. They may not be doing it so well, especially if it's somebody at the beginning of their transition. They may not be fitting in very well. They may still sound a lot like a man, talk a lot like a man, dressing a lot like a man, and that may never even change. They might be, 6'6", and they're never going to, you're never going to be able to get to the point where you can't tell. That may be the case, but it's somebody that says, you know what group I belong in? I belong with this group.
I can remember after you transitioned, not long after you transitioned, I said something to you about one of the football games I was watching. And boy, did you see that? And what happened here? And you said, no, I don't watch it anymore. I don't feel I have to.
It did. I had a few years beforehand where I felt like if I don't keep up with sports, everyone is going to be judging me. And then nobody expects me to know sports anymore. And in fact, I made a joke at work the other day about something about, everybody was talking about it's football season. Did you see this game? And I said, I don't keep up with sports ball. And they all laughed. They thought that was really funny.
And I can tell you there are certain things I do that they just seem so natural to me. And most of the guys I talk to, it's the same way. Like, I don't really want to go shopping with my wife. I'd rather stay home and shovel the driveway. It would be more fun for me than going shopping. Shopping is not fun. And a lot of guys will say that. Did you like shopping when you were in high school?
I will tell you. So it actually, that changed. Shopping is no fun as a man. And shopping is completely fun as a woman. As a man, you go in and you've got, okay, do you want this pair of khaki pants or do you want this pair of black pants? I mean, you don't have a lot of options.
That's true.
With women, you have all kinds of options on things that you can wear. And it's, look at this. And this outfit would look cute together. And this would work really well. I remember going shopping with a friend of mine in high school, woman. And I thought, this will be fun. And I was bored out of my mind after about 20 minutes. But now if I were to go with her, I would be able to look at all of the outfits that she was looking at and try them on and try this and try that way more fun when you get to do something.
Well, that's interesting. Yes, exactly. Well, it's not fun for me. I'd rather do anything than go shopping. Shopping is not fun. And even when we shop for something that isn't gender specific, let's say a can opener. If we wanted to go and shop for a can opener, I'd find one and say, okay, let's take this one. And no. Oh, well, yeah, that's a possibility, but let's look at all these other ones. And I thought, well, I found what I want. That's it. Let's go.
So actually, some of the most fun that I've been able to have with bonding experiences with Mom after transition was when we go out shopping and realizing, because I sort of grew up thinking I'm not supposed to like shopping. And now when I go out with her, this is really fun, and I'm really enjoying it. We make a whole day out of it. So,
oh man, that would bore me to death. I learned now what I should do is if she wants me to go shopping with her, I'll sit in the parking lot and read a book or listen to the radio or listen to a podcast while she's inside shopping. So maybe you'll be shopping for some more information from us, and you're going to find it right here, next week at the same time. Next Monday, we'll see you again. It's going to be a great week. We'll see you next Monday.